What is the most messed up thing someone has dropped into a casual conversation? When we were talking about one of my mom's uncles, she casually dropped the fact that he was a pedophile who physically shamed most of his children. Jaws were dropped. I was at a bonfire a couple of days ago, and this backwards D-bag with an Ed Hardy cap was talking about this party that he had attended a couple months before. He said that there was a girl at the party that got so drunk that she told everyone at the party that she had never had fricked before, and eventually passed out half naked and pee the bed. He then proceeded to gloat about how he fricked her while she was unconscious and how she called him the next day in tears because she had accidentally lost her virginity. And I said, "Oh, so you violated her." The party quickly went downhill from there. One year at the cottage we met a family who was renting a cottage across the bay for the weekend, which consisted of a mum, dad, a 25-ish-year-old sister, and a younger sister who was maybe around 7 or 8. One afternoon, the parents decided to tell my mom that the older sister is actually the younger sister's mother, but they are raising her to believe that they are her biological parents. I can't imagine this stayed a secret for much longer, seeing as they told my mom after speaking to her for maybe about half an hour. Had a girl friend over. There was about 3 of us sitting around the couch, drinking some beers. She drops the "so I had a miscarriage on Sunday" bomb. Yeah, I didn't even know I was pregnant. Anyone want another beer? 8. Whoa, that sucks. She probably had no one else to talk to and didn't know any other way to bring it up, to vent. Hope she's okay. We were visiting my mother's house and sitting down for a family dinner once with my siblings and significant others. About 8 of us in total. My brother, who is significantly younger than I am, was about 14 at the time. There was a silent moment, the kind where you can hear the sound of chewing, and my mother obviously wasn't comfortable with it, so she casually mentioned I walked in on brother's name, masturbating last week. Chaos ensued. I pictured food exploding into the air, and everyone screaming at the top of their lungs in slow motion. Hungover at my college's cafeteria, eating breakfast and making obligatory small talk with a girl from Iowa. Somehow the topic of M came up. I know, what could go wrong? Me. Yeah, it's a pretty rampant problem. I read a book about it that focused on a city in Iowa. Actually, people just boost these big tanks of methylamine from farmers. Girl. Oh yeah, my dad used to be a sheriff in Iowa. Me. Oh cool. Girl. Yeah, one time he tried to close the lid to a huge methylamine tank that was leaking. Me. Oh wow. Girl. But he fell in when he was crossing the ladder. Me. Oh. Such an awkward pause. Is he alright? Girl. Pure matter of fact. No. The acid ate him to the bone. He's dead. Me. Oh. Frick. Resume Surreal. Too much Breaking Bad in my life, and I mixed things up. She actually told me that he fell into a tank of anhydrous ammonia. I used to work at a restaurant, and one day during pre-shift we were casually talking and somebody mentioned choking someone else as a joking threat. My very hot manager then says I like to be choked. Realizing what she said, she then stayed in her office for most of the day. I picked up a homeless guy on the interstate on the way back from Kansas City to St. Louis. He seemed really nice and had a lot of words of wisdom. He gave me some interesting insight on women and how to stay positive during the rough times. Later he asked me if I lived in downtown St. Louis. No, I live in Clayton. I can drop you off around there or somewhere before. He responds, just don't drop me off downtown in Niggerville. Then, I swear on my life, he pulled out a big knife and showed me how he would stab her in if I dropped him off down there. At the next gas station he went inside to pee and I pretended to start filling up the car. Once he was out of sight I popped the trunk, threw out both of his duffel bags on the ground and peeled out of there. The whole escape probably took less than 8 seconds. 8 seconds. Too long. One night I was talking to a friend of mine that I've known for years, and he drops the biggest WTF bomb that I've ever heard. He told me that when he was 16, one morning woke up and did not remember anything. By anything I mean he wasn't even able to recognize his parents or girlfriend. The most shocking thing is that he never recovered the memory. He actually does not remember anything that happened to him before he was 16. I proceeded to talk to him hours asking questions on how it is to wake up one day and having a brand new life. It was a fricked up and extremely interesting conversation. I was at my friend's house on the last day of winter break, helping him pack his college stuff to go back to school. His mom walked through the doorway and looked at the piles of books, computer stuff, etc. With this expression of WTF are you doing after this long, awkward stare. She goes, oh, I guess no one told you. Your dad lost his job and you're not going back to college this semester. I was once having a drunken patio conversation with some buddies and we were discussing stupid annoying things. It was a random conversation about dumb crap and we were having a laugh until one of my friends busts this out. Friend, verbatim. Don't you guys hate when you're taking a crap and it grazes the back of your balls? Everyone else, moment of silence. Other friend, after moment of silence, dude. How big are your balls? I was hitchhiking and was picked up by a guy who had just caught his adopted 8-year-old son trying on his adopted infant son's diapers. He didn't know what to do or say, so he got in his van and just started driving. He had picked me up simply because he needed to tell someone. Kids do weird crap. I'm sure he was just curious. My grandson sees a psychologist. He was violated when he was 2. The boy who did it was 9 but he looked about 12. An old lady that started talking to me on the train. Pity fricking some chick going through AA. She casually mentioned she'd think it hot were I to cut off her head and frick it. I try really hard to dismiss this and laugh it off. I'm serious. I've had fricked a dead body before. This guy I was riding OD'd on H. I just kept going. It was really hot. We have a winner of the thread. That is. Girl met on OKC. On first date. Her. I only ride back doors now. Every time I'll let some guy frick me in the pee. I got pregnant and have had to get 4 abortions so far. Me. Ever try birth control? Her. No, the Bible says birth control is a sin. Check please. Good play. Straight to the back door riding. Like a man. I was at a Jack in the Box drive-thru and the man and woman in the car in front of me were yelling at each other quite loud, so I had begun to eavesdrop. When he got up to order it went something like this. Man, I need a number 4 combo, a number 3 combo, and a mother freaking divorce, and a strawberry shake. Then she started yelling. I lolled. I was driving along with my dad when I was about 6, 1982. We were chatting about civil rights because one of my classmates was the first black student at my elementary. My dad is telling me about how the South is very sectarian, but most of the world isn't, like Pennsylvania where he's from. He tells me about his friend in the service in Biloxi, LA, and how they were such good friends, did everything together, even went to prostitutes together, but in Biloxi the local lady wouldn't see his friend because he was black. So dad said you are too ignorant for even a W and a W and a W and a W. So, this whole time, I am just sitting listening quietly, being a 6-year-old girl with 2 little blonde braids and a missing tooth. And dad slowly turns and looks at me. I said a W and dad said, well, I was in the military, and it's just what you do in the military. I was stationed at Keesler AFB in Biloxi, LA. Is with the most xenophobic piece of frick I had ever met. He was from Harrisburg, PA. Oh, irony. On my first day of work at a shoe store, the manager walked me around and introduced me to the other employees that came in that day. There was maybe about 2 others. The last one of the night was an old, short woman named Joanne. As soon as she sees the manager, she walks up to her and tells us that her husband found her toys and tried to throw them out. My manager says to me, Joanne collects Barbie dolls. Joanne looks at her and says, no, my other toys. Goddamnit, Joanne, the manager gave you an out. Giving a co-worker and her boyfriend a ride home. She starts screaming at me to take a different exit off the highway because there's a police car on the off-ramp. Turns out, they have a restraining order against each other because he screwed a 13-year-old and she kicked the crap out of him for cheating on her. They both ended up in jail shortly after. Him for the 13-year-old, her for stabbing him in the leg. I was talking to an old high school friend about a fight we had just seen at the bar. Then he started to tell me about this time when he tried to break up a similar fight, and when the cops showed up they arrested him and put him in the back of a police car. At this point I was sympathetic to the situation he was describing. It seemed like it could have happened to anyone. He was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Then he finished the story with this. So I figured since I was already in trouble I might as well go all out, so I bashed my head into the glass divider in the car and drew a swastika with my own blood. Me and a friend were sitting around working on his Mazda when he mentioned that he only rode back doors with his girlfriend because she had a cyst the size of a baseball in her glory hole and it grossed him out. Total non sequitur. I paused a minute and said, your air cleaner is dirty. As a kid I was playing along the shore of the Ohio River while visiting my dad's family. I found some neat sticks in the water and started collecting them when my cousin walked up. He was probably about 20 at the time and said, I'm pretty sure those are human bones. Turns out they were. I was playing with a part of a murdered woman's femur. That sounds like the opening to some crime drama on TV. A few years back in college, I was playing Mario Kart Double Dash and drinking beer with a good friend of mine. Me. Dude, pass me Hick the turtle. Him. Here you go man. Me. Awesome. Take that Hick baby Mario. Him. Dude, I got AIDS. Me. Him. Yeah. Me. When did you learn about it? Him. A few weeks ago. Been meaning to tell you for a while now. Me. Wow. I'm not sure what to say. Him. Your hiccups gone. Me. Wah. You mother sucker. Mum. I want you to go to the shop for me and get this and this. Oh by the way, Bluey, our dog, is dead. Don't forget the bread. Me. What? Whoa, that's awful. But at least she rhymed. During my first week of a new job, my boss started telling me and another employee about how he used to date a deaf girl, and that the reason they broke up was that he laughed when she screamed while fricking. Did you ever wonder if your mum gave your dad a BJ just before she kissed you goodnight? Frick you Uncle Tony. Frick you. I met this pretty cute girl at the beach couple summers ago. We started talking and playing volleyball. Everything seemed normal up until the part where started describing her life. Girl. Yeah. Well my boyfriend is in jail right now for stabbing someone. And that reminds me. Wanna see my stab scar too? She shows me her stab scar and starts telling me how she dropped out of school as a complete druggie. Girl. You know, I kinda feel lonely without my boyfriend and he doesn't need to know about anything. I freaking left. Random hookup I met through a buddy. Said not long after the hookup. Her. So how old are you? My buddy. Before I could say anything. He's 27. Why? How old are you? Her. I'm 18. But don't worry. I've fricked someone who was 34 before. He's 40 now. It was one of the most awkward moments of my life. It was also the last time I'll let my buddy hook me up with someone. Math horror. My friend's girlfriend does this on the daily pretty much. We will be talking about anything at all and she will interject with, one time, my mother bit me, or when I was 6, a strange man came in through my window, I hate graveyards because dead people talk to me, etc. It's kind of hard to salvage a conversation once it has taken that turn. She sounds like she might have a dusting of schizophrenia. I came home from high school one day, and my parents told me that they had all of our family pets put down that day. 5 dogs and a cat. None of the animals were sick or hurt. In fact one of them was only 2 years old. We had no problem affording their food, and there was no legal issue. They just purely did not want to take care of 5 85-pound bull mastiffs anymore, and it was my job to pick up their crap, not theirs. From this experience I learned that when you cry long enough, your tears become pink from blood caused by the irritation. I told my folks to go frick themselves and lived in the basement for over a month. It was furnished. My mom left food for me at the top of the stairs. Somewhat unrelated, this is when I taught myself how to code in assembly because I needed a distraction. A few months later we went to a breeder and bought a West Highland White Terrier. He was a good dog, but I was always slightly concerned that they would randomly kill him too. My folks soon got divorced, and when they did, they didn't ask me who I wanted to live with and didn't fight for custody of me, but they fought like the couple on the War of the Roses over that freaking dog. So, at age 17, I moved out of the house. I had a job, into my own apartment in a crappy neighborhood. To this day I still don't forgive nor understand my parents, even though they passed away a long time ago. I was studying in the Dominican Republic, and living in a very rural area, I pass my days sitting around talking to whoever. One day, I'm in a town I frequented, and this guy I hadn't seen before starts talking to me. Within 5 minutes, he tells me this, totally straight-faced. When I was little, I had a goat, and I used to play with the goat. But then I got too old, so I stopped playing with him. One day, I was sitting like this, he had his knees apart, and the goat got mad that I wouldn't play with him. He charged, hit me between the legs, and took out my testicles. Now I have none. I sat there in shock, hoping that my Spanish was poor enough that I misunderstood. Sadly, an hour later, I hear the same story from his aunt, who is giggling while telling the story, with the poor guy sitting there. I thought you were going to say he fricked the goat. Not a conversation I was directly involved in, but there's still a high degree of WTF. I was talking with some friends the other day and one mentioned that while she was at work, her friends there brought up the topic of deepest, darkest secrets. One immediately volunteered the information that every time she goes to the bathroom, she sniffs her panties. Apparently everyone just gaped awkwardly and the conversation quickly shifted to other topics. Seriously, if a topic like that ever comes up, don't ever be the first one to share. That is incredibly sound advice. A girl I met for a blind date, which was already a disaster on many levels, causally dropped in this nugget as I was hurriedly bringing her home. Yay, so this one time a girl told people that my friend got her pregnant and it was a lie, ruined the kid's life. So the next time I saw her, I shived her in the neck. Me. Her sound of car accelerating faster. My dad left me on the freeway once, for several hours, and now that I'm grown up, he steals my money and blames me for everything that goes wrong. Yeah, about third or fourth conversation I had with that guy. Oh, way to drop dramatic family history into a conversation about cinnamon buns, man. I was catching up with one of my ex-girlfriends, who I hadn't seen in years. We'd parted on good terms, so it was just friends catching up. She was kind of weird in a monkey cheese ninjas pirates way when I knew her, so this came as something of a shock. Her, blah blah blah, and then I had my kids, but that was after I lost my leg. Me, you lost a leg? Her, yeah, we got in a shootout with some white supremacist group, and I got hit in the leg. I didn't want to go to the hospital because the last doctor I saw was a N and I think he's the reason I lost my eye. So I put it off and it got really infected and then those dirty Indian doctors cut it off. Freaking dotheads. Me. And who was we again? Her. Oh, some other white supremacist group. You know, I can get you in if you want. The racial cleansing is coming and I'd hate for you to be on the wrong side of the race war. You're smart enough to be an officer, and we need someone good at planning because me. So that's how I found out my ex-girlfriend was a one-legged, one-eyed white supremacist that gets in shootouts. Dude, you could have been an officer. I was young and thought Red Lobster was an awesome restaurant. I had a bit of extra money just then, rare, so I asked this girl out. She was young, hot, in her early 20s or late teens, smoking body. We're sitting in the waiting area for our table to be ready when this couple comes in with a toddler in a stroller. She smiles at the little boy, he smiles back at her. That's when she says, "Oh, he's so cute. He looks just like my 2-year-old. I'm rolling with it. Okay, she has a kid she didn't mention. We'd talked several times before, but never dated. That's cool, I'm thinking. I can deal with that." Then she drops the bomb. Turning to me, she says, "By the way, did I mention I have 5 kids? No, that didn't come up. At least the biscuits were good." At a bachelor party talking to one of the strippers, she says, "Sure, I'll frick the groom and even the best man, but after 3 or 4 guys it gets kind of gross, you know." In a party, I approached 2 friends talking and overheard that's why I don't eat human flesh anymore. I moonwalked the frick away. I moonwalked the frick away. That's an incredible mental image. 2 female co-workers have a discussion in the next room. Usually there's commotion, open windows, conversations over there get muffled up. That day, however, was a holiday. I was the only guy working in my room, and for some reason I wasn't typing, so I was virtually inaudible. So I overhear the 2 co-workers talking. So yeah, he thought I was cheating on him, and he got mad, really mad, and yesterday he barged in with a pistol, stuck it in my mouth, took me to his car his crazy brother was driving, so they drove me to where he thought my lover lived. I had that gun in my mouth the whole time, about 30 minutes, and the freaky thing is during that time I came about 3 times. I worked at a bank and me and my co-workers, include Angie who just started a week before this, were talking about child smokers. We were discussing whether the rate of adult smokers would drop if there was a way to keep kids uninterested until they were 18. We asked Angie what she thought, then her WTF moment. Angie, well, I started smoking because my stepmom would smoke with me. We would also drink and then she turned me in for drugs and I spent the next 4 years in rehab until I was 18. Okay, quite a bit to drop on your co-workers in the first real conversation you've ever had with them. My general rule of thumb is that the first co-workers I meet at a new job are highly likely to be the most fricked up in the office. Reason: their fuckadoopedness has probably scared off everyone else, so now they are lonely, so when a new employee comes in they want to make a good first impression. And like usual and in your case, fail horribly. Got a couple for you. Was working at a grocery store. I was customer service desk. My boss was there. She was about 25ish. Me maybe 20. We're talking about partying. I told her I like drinking bourbon to get real fricked up. She tells me that OMG she got so wasted off of Jack Daniels one night. She was at a party and was basically blacking out and she figures she gave just about every guy at the party a blowjob. What? I didn't know what to do. Did I hear that correctly? Holy crap. Couple months later I got the world's shittiest BJ from this girl. Practice no equal perfect. Even the handy was like some kind of sword in the stone misadventure. Just terrible. Another time I was talking to my roommate, an English guy. I was explaining the concept behind Toots and the Maytals 5446 song. He was a real kind English guy and as I'm talking he just sticks his finger into his nose, then that same finger into his mouth, and he sucks the fricking thing dry better than my boss ever did. Both so different. Both so similar. Both so surreal. Even the handy was like some kind of sword in the stone misadventure. Just terrible. Best line in the thread. About 5 years ago we saw a customer of ours on the news who had lost her daughter. My boss and I were talking about how shocking it was to see someone we knew on TV who lost her daughter in a violent murder. In the conversation we discussed what the news said happened to her. At the time there was suspected physical abuse in the murder before and after she was killed. I talked about how messed up that was while my boss talked about how he didn't believe debauchery existed. He went on and on about how it was just used to get men in trouble and how someone just freaking could never be that psychologically damaging. He actually said, "Who cares if a guy stuck his dong in your pee? Why is that so terrible? If you didn't like it, just forget it." I asked him what if it had been his sister or mother that had been violated and he replied with, "Who cares? That's what a pee is made for. If it happened we just forget it happened and move on. You should have just violated him." I was talking to my cousin while driving. Cousin. So one time I masturbated while driving. Me. Why? And dangerous much? Cousin. Well, it was like 10 at night and my radio is broken. So what else was I supposed to do? I was talking to my old neighbor, who lives in a house with 2 married couples and their kids. They're pretty white trash, though they live in the city. They've got a car on cinder blocks and everything. One of the husbands walks out the front door with a huge bandage wrapped over the palm of his hand. I asked my neighbor what had happened. He said, "Oh, well, Randall got in a fight with his wife last night. They were arguing about the car, on cinder blocks, and she ended up grabbing a knife and stabbing him through his hand. She was going for his chest, but he put up his hand and blocked it. Yeah, she went back to jail for that one. The cops came and got her last night." This girl who was mentally retarded casually mentioning that she hadn't always been like that. Apparently her father beat her with a 2x4 when she was little. I teach a relationship physical ed class for people with developmental disabilities. We get a disclosure of this level or higher pretty much every single class. When we talk about what's private, not telling strangers things like this is pretty high on the list. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.